Strength of schedules, chances of making the college football playoff rankings, and plenty more. It's a mailbag edition of Locked On Vols, plus a really cool announcement here at the top of the show. This is your Tuesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it. This is Locked On Vols, your daily Tennessee Volunteers podcast. It's a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every single day. I'm your host, Eric Kane. So glad to have you guys here with us today. You can always follow this podcast on Twitter at _Kaner. That's my handle. And at Locked On Vols. Hey, almost 2,000 Twitter followers on the show account. So if you guys aren't following Locked On Vols on Twitter, I encourage you to go hit that follow button right there. And of course, we're always on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and anywhere you find your podcast, completely free. And I really do appreciate that. Hey, right here at the top of the show, I want to say this, some exciting news. All right. A lot of you guys have been OGs. You've been with me for about we'll call it 19 month, or no, about 21-month journey I've been on with Locked On Vols since late, I think it was February 2021. Anyway, some of you guys have been listening to the show back when Josh Ward did it. And we have a weekly newsletter where it kind of gives our progress of the college channel, or the whole network, but of the college channel, it lists the top 10 podcasts in terms of podcast listens for that week. It does the same thing for YouTube. Now, I have consistently been number 2 the entire time, behind my boss of the college channel and Locked On Auburn, Zach Blackerby, who does an awesome job. Last week, we were number 1. Locked On Vols was number 1 in podcast listens on the college channel. That's a huge win, guys, and can't thank you enough. It's something to celebrate. I tweeted about it. That is awesome stuff, and a good football team helps, no doubt about it. But thank you guys so much for that. Really do appreciate it. A couple other things before we get into our mailbag show. We're going to take your questions, comments from YouTube, Twitter, all that type of stuff throughout the show. Jerome Carvin named the SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. It's easy to do when you rank up 696 yards of total offense in a football game. I don't care who you're playing. Somebody's going to be the Offensive Lineman of the Week in the SEC, and this week it is Jerome Carvin. What's interesting about this, though, Tennessee so far this year has had 3 different offensive linemen being named Lineman of the Week in the SEC. Javonte Spraggins, Darnell Wright, and now Jerome Carvin. So typically, whenever you're pushing for like postseason awards and everything, I know this is midseason, but like postseason awards, if you're an offensive lineman, you know, if you have an offense that's really good, stacking up all these points and yards like Tennessee's offense is, you push one of your offensive linemen and try to, nominate him for pretty much every single award. Typically, you could start doing that earlier in the season. Tennessee's not doing that. I'm intrigued to see what happens here, but they've kind of spread the wealth a little bit. I mean, I would anticipate it being Darnell Wright because he's, the best of Tennessee's offensive linemen. So any type of postseason award or All-American or All-Region or whatever, Tennessee will push one offensive lineman. I think it'll be Darnell Wright. But so far this season, Tennessee's been named 3 different offensive linemen for SEC Offensive Lineman of the Week. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But congrats to Jerome Carvin. And the kickoff time for Tennessee at Georgia has been announced. Tennessee will be at Georgia, of course, next Saturday, not this upcoming Saturday, but next Saturday, November the 5th. That'll be another CBS 3:30 kick. You knew that was going to happen, right? Between the hedges. All right, let's get into it. Twitter Tuesday time right here on Locked On Vols. We're going to start here with Chris. Chris has got a couple of different questions. With a backup quarterback like Joe Milton playing better than he ever has, in your opinion, can we get to and win the SEC with him? If so, why not let Hendon Hooker really go for the Heisman race? Let him stay in and ball out. I'm not ready. I think Joe Milton's playing pretty well. I think he looks a lot better. Now, granted, the stage is different, right? You're not a starting quarterback. You're going in and playing against some not great competition. It's already a blowout, but he looks more poised. He looks more comfortable. So I recognize Joe Milton is playing better right now. But to answer your question, do I think Tennessee can win the SEC with Joe Milton right now? I don't think so, because I haven't seen enough from Joe Milton this year to lead me to that conclusion. Now, Joe Milton from last year, absolutely not. So that's kind of where I'm at on that one. Your second question, does Tennessee have one-sided receivers? You see receivers at the next level change sides all the time. If Hendon is more comfortable throwing to the right, Why can't Tennessee rotate Brew and get some other key receivers to that side? I don't know, man. That's a good question. It's obvious that I think more so than anything, not just like throwing right or throwing left, I think Hendon finds a guy that he's comfortable with, he's locked in with, and that's his guy. I mean, Cedric Tillman was that way. Obviously, right now, Jalen Hyatt is that way. And the guy on the left side is often forgotten about, right? I mean, you've got Brew McCoy over there. Javonte Payton was that guy last year. It's kind of unique. I think more or less it's a Hendon thing than maybe. I know a lot of like in the Pittsburgh game, they went to Cedric Tillman because they thought Cedric Tillman couldn't be stopped, and he had a big time football game. And right now, Jalen Hyatt can't be stopped. So we'll see as the year goes on. But of course, to win big time football games, all those guys are gonna have to step up big. I mean, look at Brew at the end of the Alabama game. What a big boy catch there to secure it and set up a Chase McGrath 40-yard field goal. So I think it just that kind of depends, but I think it's a little bit of both play calling, and of course, I think it's also Hendon as well. But Tennessee does not rotate receivers. You play out right, you play out left, and then the slot, of course, can move side to side. Let's go to Jack. I'm getting these off YouTube, by the way. If you haven't already, subscribe, and you can join the show and with their Twitter Tuesdays as well. Jack, Twitter Tuesday, what are the key statistics to keep an eye on for the upcoming game against Kentucky? I'll give you one right now. Of course, we'll dive into this more and more as the week goes on. We'll have a crossover with Lance Daw. We'll talk to some Kentucky people, all that and more. But one to keep an eye on, Kentucky abandoned this mindset last year. But what Kentucky does is it slows the pace of the game down. It runs the football. It runs play action with Will Levis. And Josh Heupel spoke on this Monday. It minimizes the possessions for each team. Okay, so what that means is Tennessee, if they follow their normal blueprint, this being Kentucky, Tennessee will have a couple of less possessions in this football game. It means it matters even more, right? You can't have 3 and outs. You can't have turnovers. You got to cash in on those possessions. Now, if Tennessee comes out and scores 14 points in the span of 30 seconds, like it did at the beginning of possession time, like it did at the beginning of the Kentucky game last year, they might abandon it and try to just outscore Tennessee in a shootout. Like that was the game last year. So we'll have to see. But possessions brought on by Kentucky running the football, minimizing the game, minimizing possessions. That's something to pay attention to, in my opinion. We'll do one more here before we take a short breather and then come back for some more Twitter Tuesday. Mark, with Tennessee's hype-powered offense, I see what you did there, and opportunistic defense, do you think we can pull off the upset in Athens? I believe we can sack Stetson Bennett, and we can score on anyone. Vols number one run defense in the SEC, number one in QB pressures, number one offense in the nation. Yeah, is it possible to win in Athens and pull off the upset? 100%. I'm intrigued to see what that line's going to look like. I'm sure Georgia will be favored in this football game. It's going to be a home football game. Georgia's not going to lose against Florida this weekend. But I'm intrigued to see what that line is. Will that line be 6? Well, I mean, I can't imagine it being anything, depending on what Tennessee looks like this weekend, of course. But I can't imagine right now that line being any more than 6, maybe 5. Could it be 3, which is essentially a pick 'em? I don't know. We will see. But can Tennessee pull off the upset in Athens? 100%. I mean, Tennessee has a good chance of winning this football game, of course, needs to take care of business and go ahead and continue the good things with Kentucky this weekend. So, yeah, good questions there. We will come back and we will discuss more and take your questions here on Locked On Vols. But first, I want to remind you guys about one of our proud sponsors in SimpliSafe. As everyone knows, athletes rise and fall in the ranks, but when it comes to saving money, SimpliSafe always stays on top. And right now, you can save big with a SimpliSafe Home Security. They're giving listeners 40% off their advanced security system. SimpliSafe is just named the best home security of 2022 by the U.S. News. I use it, I love it, and you will love it too, because at SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters. 24/7 professional monitoring when threat is detected. SimpliSafe's monitoring professionals promptly call you and get you to dispatch first responders to your home, even if you're away or unable to respond. 24/7 professionals monitoring costs just under $1 a day. That's less than half the cost of ADT's traditional professionals install plans as well. Don't miss this chance to save big when protecting your home comes to the best of mind. All right, get 40% off your order when you visit simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege today. Customize your perfect system with your home in just a few minutes. Again, that is simplisafe.com/lockedoncollege today. SimpliSafe.com/LockedOnCollege today. Go today. There's no safe like SimpliSafe. Welcome back into your Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. I am your host, Eric Kane. A lot of you guys poking fun at me about my microphone in the comment section on YouTube. It's a really good mic. The problem was I was hovering it. I was making out with the mic yesterday, and it's got a sensor. When I get too high with my octaves, it cuts it down, and it was just getting a little frustrating yesterday. But so far, so good today. Let's knock on some wood there. Mailbag edition, Twitter Tuesday. Let's get back into it. We got K. Wayne, 1800. K. Wayne chimes in. Do you expect Haddon to return this week? We'll see. I'm not a fortune teller. Of course, anything with injuries as well, as my mic starts popping now. Anything with injuries, you never quite know, so you never want to say anything definite. But I think Haddon was close last week, and so I think Haddon will be on track to play this weekend. But, of course, we will have to see. Let's go to straight up Tennessee. A couple of questions here. Against UT Martin, there were a couple of times on third downs, Tennessee would bring it on the defensive line from left to right. Byron Young, Tyler Barron, Bumpus, and Josephs on the defensive front. Do you think you'll see more of that front moving forward on third downs? That's a variation of the Rabbits package, that pass rushing situations. You want to get faster guys on the field. Tyler Barron's a guy that's going to be out there. Byron Young, of course. And in weeks past this season, you've seen Joshua Josephs, who's still out there. Roman Harrison has been out there. Amari Thomas has been out there. Latrell Bumpus. Typically, you want to get a lot of edge guys, like fast guys out there. So I would imagine that would be a variation of the Rabbits package that we see this year. Might not be the one that's going forward every single snap that during the Rabbits package, but that could be one for sure. And another question, are you more worried about Will Levis or Chris Rodriguez? I just think that they're going to try and hold on to the ball as long as they can. Certainly, that's what I thought they were going to do last year. And what do you know? They go into a shootout and they take a page out of Tennessee's book and try to score every single play. I will still say Will Levis, and here's why. Tennessee's rush defense has been good. Now, it will be tested. It was tested against Alabama. It'll be tested against Kentucky. Kentucky's offensive line is not nearly what it was last year. I think Chris Rodriguez will have a decent day. I don't think Tennessee's going to shut him down for like 50 yards rushing or anything. But if you can hold him and don't allow the big plays, I think that's going to be good. But there will be third downs. And what Will Levis does with the football in his hands on third downs is what gives me pause. He's not straight dual threat, but he can certainly extend plays with his legs. They can call some design QB runs for him. Tennessee's third down defense was atrocious last year. What he does with the football in his hands on third downs is what will give me pause. So for that reason, I will say Will Levis, but obviously Chris Rodriguez is one of the best running backs in the country and in the SEC. He's been on fire. I think I mentioned it yesterday, but of course he was suspended the first 4 games. Since coming back, he's rushed for 72 yards, 129 yards, and 179 yards respectively. So he's good back, no doubt about it. Let's go to Braden. Braden wants to know, do you foresee Tennessee being an offseason transfer portal hotspot due to our recent success? Absolutely. And what needs to happen in the standings around us to have the best possible college football playoff chance? Just keep winning. I mean, Tennessee, you can't stumble anywhere. You got to beat Georgia. That's the easiest thing. You control your own destiny. Tennessee continues to win. Tennessee continues to take advantage of what's in front of them. Beat Kentucky. Go down and upset Georgia. Should be a tough football game between the hedges. And then don't stumble the rest of the way against South Carolina, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. That is the best chance. That's a good thing right now. You don't need help. You don't need help. Tennessee, you just need to keep winning. Now, if you were to lose against Georgia, you would likely need Georgia to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game, and I think that would help. So, we'll see. Long way to go. The first playoff rankings will come out November the 1st. Let's go to Maddox. Maddox is up next. Let's see here. Say the Vols handle business these next 2 weeks. I believe the college football playoff rankings will come out before the Georgia game. Do you think, this is actually a question from last week, but it applies now. Do you think with Tennessee's resume, the committee would put Tennessee at number 1 or at least number 2, setting up a top 2 matchup in Athens? Also, third game day featuring the Vols. As far as third game day featuring the Vols, I mean, could game day be in Athens? Sure. If you mean back in Knoxville, no. But hey, potentially it could be there in Athens. That game is going to be televised on CBS, but of course game day can be there. So we'll see about that. As far as the college football playoff rankings are concerned, Tennessee's number 3 in the AP poll right now. Georgia's 1, Ohio State is 2. The first college football playoff rankings, as he mentioned, comes out It'll be on Tuesday, November the 1st, right in front of the Georgia game. Georgia has Florida this weekend. Ohio State will be on the road at number 13, Penn State. So that'll be a good win for Ohio State. Georgia's strength of schedule right now is 84th. It will be the 5th strength of schedule with you look ahead in terms of this, according to ESPN's College Football Power Index. It's characterized as the remaining strength of schedule. So right now, Georgia's at 84th, but the remaining strength of schedule is 5th. Ohio State's strength of schedule right now is 81st. The remaining strength of schedule is 19th. Tennessee's strength of schedule right now is 16th. The remaining strength of schedule is at number 7. So I don't know if it'll be number 1. I could see it potentially being number 2. We'll have to see. It'll be interesting, but Ohio State's not going to lose, likely. Penn State's decent, but Ohio State won't lose there. I think it's a double-digit favorite in that one, and Georgia's not going to lose to Florida. So we'll see if it's 1-2 matchup, but I don't know if it will be number 1, but who knows? We'll see. A couple more here in segment 2. Let's go to Brandon. Brandon wants to know, checking on Pat Garland. It looked like he was going to play this year up until the injury. Do we know what is going on with him? Is he expected to return? I asked about Pat Garland when I saw this message come in. I didn't get a clear answer. I'll continue to work on that. He got hurt in the first game of the season against Ball State. He had been in a sling at points in times. I don't know if he's still in there or not. I'll have to continue to check on that. He's not been ruled out for the season, in my opinion, or at least I haven't heard, but ultimately we'll continue to look into that. He was obviously on the sidelines, not dressed. He was in street clothes with his jersey on. But he's been out a while, so we'll have to see. Last one here for segment number 2. It goes to James. And James wants to know, is it just me, or does Tennessee let off the offense in the second half of these blowouts? If so, why don't they continue to run their offense with the second unit in? I understand sportsmanship, but you have to have your backups in. You really need Milton and those guys to get all the reps they can with so much at stake this season. I agree. I mean, there's a lot at stake, but I mean, Tennessee was running its offense. Now, I mean, obviously at the end of the football game against LSU in Florida, they were trying to go 4-minute and slow some things down. But I mean, Tennessee, the points aren't there. I think that's more or less just to the freshmen and the young guys who are getting some game reps that they weren't obviously producing at the clip that, the starters were. So I don't think they're letting their foot off the pedal whatsoever. I just think that the production is obviously, not the same there. We'll come back with more of your Twitter Tuesday questions. That's coming up here in just a second. But hey, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high stakes wager for your small business. It's all so very important, guys. So very important. And you want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Add the purple #hiring frame once you have posted your job on LinkedIn. So spread the word that you are indeed hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and then ultimately hire. It's why small businesses rank LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus its leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, guys, we got a final segment left here on this Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. Appreciate you guys for taking the time to hang out with us here today on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, wherever you find your podcast. Completely free. Please subscribe and support the show, whichever avenue you are listening or watching. Also, again, Locked On Vols, almost 2,000 followers on Twitter. So let's get that over 2K. Let's go ahead and follow that Locked On Vols if you haven't already on Twitter. Appreciate you guys for always doing that stuff. Let's get back into Mailbag. Twitter Tuesday here on the show. Let's go to Drew. What are the biggest defensive challenges that Kentucky presents to our high-octane offense? It's a really good defense. Top 15 defense overall in the country. Top 10 in scoring. They've got some guys in the back end who have played. Currington Valentine at cornerback leads the team with 7 PBUs. He's a guy that's played an awful lot. You've got a strong safety. I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's a really good player, one of the team leaders in tackles a season ago. But I mean, their strength comes from the middle layer. They got a couple of really good tacklers. You got DeAndre Square, who kind of leads the crop, is really, really good. You've got De'Eric De'Aaron Jackson and Jacquez Jones, two other linebackers from that second level, from the mid layer, who are really good. Got JJ Weaver and Jordan Wright on the edge. Jordan Wright, I think he has 8 TFLs on the season. Really solid there. So they're really balanced. I made this note in the first glance piece I wrote at volquest.com. You can go check it out. Just kind of previewing the next opponent. I posted it last night. And Kentucky has 10 sacks on the season and 6 interceptions, but not one player has multiple in that category. Not one player has 2 sacks. Not one player has 2 interceptions. It's very balanced, of course, across the line. So, they're going to be solid. They're going to be tough against the run. They're going to be stingy against the pass. They're a good defense, but they haven't seen a Tennessee, or they haven't seen an offense like what they're about to see with Tennessee. They haven't seen it at all. Even playing Will Rogers, it's different. He's a good quarterback, but it's certainly different. South Carolina didn't possess this type of stuff. Jackson Dart and Ole Miss did not possess this type of a challenge. Florida did not possess this type of a challenge, especially with Anthony Richardson playing as poorly as he was earlier in the season. But those are a couple of things that I'm going to be looking out for. And, more as the week goes on, we'll continue to break it down. We'll go to we will win one day. Well, hey, that one day is now. How early do you think Kentucky will have to abandon their run game? And if they do this, is it game over at that point? Here's the thing. I don't think Kentucky will abandon their run game. C-Rod, Chris Rodriguez, they have a lot of faith in him. He was one of the nation's leaders and running backs last year in yards per carry, yards per game, yards on the season. I don't think that they will ever abandon, even if they're playing from behind. It might not be a heavy dose of him, but they're going to still keep Chris Rodriguez involved in the run game. I mean, the offense, the overall numbers are not that impressive, but having him back the last 3 weeks, they look so much better. So, I mean, their strength is through Chris Rodriguez. It's not their only strength. I think Will Levis is capable of making some things happen, but especially with no downfield to targets like Wan'Dale Robinson, Josh Ali, the big wide receiver on the outside, those guys are gone now. You got Tavian Robinson, the Virginia Tech transfer, who's a pretty solid player, but I don't think that they're ever going to give up on their run game. If they do, it'll look kind of weird. Let's go to Silos. What is Tillman's draft prediction since he's not been able to go since September? I still think it hadn't changed much. I mean, around second round is kind of what I'm seeing. Of course, depending on where you look, it'll change a million different times. But I think he has the opportunity, if he comes back strong, to break into the first round. But I think he's around a second rounder, day 2 type situation there. Do you think the coaches will adjust some plays to give him the ball more to help him with his draft stock? Will they ever do something like that to help a player? Not necessarily. Like, what they're doing with Princeton Fant right now, I think is a nice hat tip, right? Like, he's not a guy that's going to get drafted. Princeton Fant is not a guy that's good enough to play tight end in the National Football League alone. His versatility, where he can play tight end, where he can line up and play fullback, where he can line up and play H-back, I think that's going to help him latch on to a roster, especially at least for next summer. There might be some thoughts on that with Tennessee's coaching staff, but overall, I think they're doing all that with Princeton Fant right now because they think it helps this offense become more dynamic and it helps this offense overall. I think that they're going to try to help Cedric Tillman or try to help anybody else, but they're not going to call plays specifically to favor one player to help a draft stock. They're going to call plays to provide the strength, to bring out the strengths in a player to help them win football games, if that makes sense. Let's go to Kurt. Princeton Fant. Oh, timely there, right? Princeton Fant gets his fair share of criticism because of his drops. Had another one against UT Martin. Yeah, he did. Gosh, he dropped a touchdown. But he obviously is a weapon on offense and his versatility. How much potential does he have if he can get rid of the drops issue? Tons of potential. I think you're seeing that right there. He's great with the ball in his hands. He's really good at running the football. I mean, he used to play running back in high school. And he's capable of running routes, making catches, blocking, lining up in different spots. I think the potential is there for sure. Now, there's a ceiling to his game, I feel like, but allowing him to be so versatile is a key component in this offense. He has stepped up really since that fumble on the first series against Florida. Again, he dropped the touchdown last week, but he has really stepped up and made some big-time plays for Tennessee. There was a critical third down conversion to where he caught it right on the sticks against Florida. That was the play of the game, if I'm not mistaken, with third down, Hendon dropping back, gets pressure, flushes to the left side, and throws to Princeton Fant at the sticks. But nonetheless, obviously, he's thrown a touchdown. He's ran for a couple. He just everybody struggles. No one's perfect. I get that. But he's had some costly drops this year, one being against UT Martin and an otherwise amazing football game for him, right? Let's go to Carter. What does our run defense look like compared to Kentucky's run offense? Any status on Jalen McCullough going forward this week? Yeah, Josh Heupel said on Monday, essentially, he's been cleared, by the university and all that, but there's still more of the process to go. So, hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens. As far as the rush defense against Kentucky's rush offense, we'll see. Tennessee was going to find out how good of a rush defense it had against Alabama, and it succeeded. I mean, it was challenged by Jahmyr Gibbs. Didn't completely shut down Jahmyr Gibbs, but they did enough and really came out on top, looked good in that football game. Chris Rodriguez will challenge them. Kentucky's offensive line is not nearly as good as what it was last year, so we will see. That's what I'm looking forward to. One of the more alpha backs in the SEC. How do you stack up? How do you play off that? I'm intrigued to see what that looks like. Let's go to Roberts. With this being the season of taking things back, that's ours. Dixieland Delight. Is there any situation where we could force Kentucky to give back the checkerboards? We'll see. I don't think they're going to give it up. I don't know why they sport that like that when clearly that's a Tennessee thing, but probably not. Let's go now to Austin. Last one. Austin. Kaner, what's up, brother? What's up, Austin? I know my opinion, but I want to hear yours with the defensive back DB situation, with many guys out in that position not being our strength. With a guy like Levis who's decent all around, do you play zone or man? How do you see Saturday going? I think you continue to mix it up a little bit, give him some different looks, make him think. But when you need to make a play, second and long, third and long, third and short, fourth and short, when you need to make a play, I'll say you man up in the back end and go after it, right? That offensive line has given up 26 sacks this year. There is opportunities there to go and get after the quarterback. So I say make it difficult. I say get after him. I say harass him a little bit, but also knowing you can't do that every play, mix some things up. So I would go more man. That's just me. But I would certainly do what Tennessee does best defensively, and that is get after it. All right, that's all the time I have today. I know there were some more questions, certainly on the Locked On Vols Twitter account. I'll go try to answer some of those maybe tomorrow. I just kind of ran out of time today, but as always, guys, I do appreciate you for sending those in each and every week. And, of course, as always, making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. And now that Locked On Vols is your first listen, make Locked On Today your second listen, okay? It's Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and of course, there's the take of the day, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. All right, Tuesday's show is in the books. Tomorrow we'll have Pro Football Focus grades and Josh Ward and plenty of other guests coming up later in the week. Guys, I appreciate it as always. Thank you so much. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. Pulpit Chair will be back tomorrow. Until next time, have a good one.